Some of the best films are subjective, meaning their stories can be interpreted a number of different ways depending on the viewer's own experiences. But an excessively ambiguous ending or a sudden shift in tone can leave audiences scratching their heads in confusion. Don't worry, we're here to explain some of the most baffling movie endings that don't mean exactly what you think they do. Beware, however, there are spoilers ahead. In Bruges. In this darkly comic morality tale, assassins Ray and Ken are sent to Bruges to lay low after a hit gone wrong. By the end of the film, half the cast is dead, and Ray is being carried away to an ambulance, pondering the nature of morality and hell. Viewers are ultimately left to wonder whether or not he survived the film's bloody climax. In one reading of the film, however, this question doesn't matter because Ray is, wait for it, already in purgatory. Earlier in the film, Ken takes Ray on an arts tour of Bruges, whereupon the two view Hieronymus Bosch's The Last Judgment painting. It's the one segment of the tour that Ray actually seems invested in, and it sparks a conversation about purgatory, a realm which Ray describes as
kind of like the in-betweeny one. You weren't really but you weren't all that great either.
The final scene of the movie mirrors Bosch's painting as a fatally wounded Ray looks up at mysterious animal-faced creatures, really just actors in costume, while he wonders what punishments await him. He thinks Bruges is hell, but maybe it's just a place for people not quite bad enough for the real thing. Total Recall. 1990's mind-bending Total Recall has become a cult classic in the decades since its release. Adapted from sci-fi author Philip K. Dick's short story We Can Remember It For You Wholesale, the film centers around Douglas Quaid, a construction worker from the year 2084. Though Quaid may or may not also be a secret agent with memory loss and a rebel involved in a war on Mars. The film continually encourages audiences to question the reality of what they're watching. Are you actually seeing Quaid finish his secret mission, or is this part of the recall procedure? One moment near the end of the film seems to suggest most of the film took place in his noggin. Early in the movie, before the recall procedure has started, a lab tech reading Quaid's dreams notes that they include a blue sky on Mars. While the similarities between the character Melina and the woman in Quaid's dreams can be explained away by his buried memories, the lab techs are clearly surprised by his conception of a Mars with a blue sky. When the movie ends with Quaid and Melina looking over the Martian sky, newly blue from oxygen after saving the planet, it's the biggest clue to the viewer that they're watching a dream. Get Out. The story of Chris, a black man meeting his white girlfriend's parents for the first time. Get Out borders on dark comedy at times, but the genre-bending flick goes full horror when the family's chilling secret comes to light. By the end of the movie, Chris has escaped the grounds of the Armitage mansion with his friend Rod after killing the family and setting their secret brain-swapping laboratory ablaze. The end of the movie sees Rod telling Chris that he can consider this situation handled. But Chris doesn't respond to Rod. Instead, he stares dejectedly into the dashboard as they drive away, leaving his girlfriend Rose to die in the street behind them. While it's cathartic to see the hero of the film survive, defeat the villains, and drive off with his friend, the ending is a bit darker than people realize. Chris knows the situation isn't handled. Logan, a victim of the procedure shown earlier in the film, is still being mind-controlled, and a few dozen old white gentry are still stealing black bodies and minds. In the alternate ending, these tragic realities are made much more explicit. Chris winds up in jail for the murder of the Armitage family with no way to prove his innocence or expose their crimes. He tells Rod that at least he stopped it as he's led to his cell where he's surrounded by other black men. In both endings, racism isn't vanquished just because Chris is able to defeat the rich body snatchers. They were just one particularly repugnant example of a systemic and very real horror. Fargo. Fargo ranks among the most straightforward of the Coen brothers' films. It's the story of a small-town crime, a greedy little man with a massive ego, and a witty sheriff with a good heart. Still, viewers are more likely to remember Steve Buscemi's performance and his gruesome disposal in The Wood Chipper than the movie's quiet, touching ending. In the film's final scene, Sheriff Marge is shown laying in bed with her husband Norm, who laments that his Mallard painting was passed over for the first-class stamp contest. Margie says she's proud of him, adding,
"Heck, Norm, you know, we're doing pretty good."
The subtle ending completely encapsulates the core themes of the movie, refuting the naked greed of nearly every other character. From Jerry, whose ambitions lead to the deaths of nearly half a dozen people, to Mike's desperate desire for Marge to believe that his life is more interesting and tragic than it seems, the characters in Fargo sow chaos when they focus on what they want rather than what they have. Marge's confirmation of the good life she and her husband have built together changes the movie from a comedy drama into a morality play, reminding the audience to be grateful for what they have. Shutter Island. Shutter Island, the Martin Scorsese adaptation of the novel of the same name, is a period thriller boasting a murderer's row of talent including Leonardo DiCaprio, Mark Ruffalo, and Ben Kingsley. In 1954, U.S. Marshal Teddy Daniels investigates an insane asylum following the escape of notorious murderer Andrew Laeddis while dealing with the suspicious Dr. Cawley and the disappearance of his partner Chuck. The central twist of the movie drew most of the audience's attention. Basically, Teddy Daniels is actually Andrew Laeddis, acting out a fantasy to restore his memories following the murder of his wife after she drowned their children years ago. But it was the enigmatic final line of the movie that has confused audiences well beyond the credits. Teddy, seemingly regressed back to his original delusion that he is a U.S. Marshal, asks Chuck,
"Which would be worse? To live as a monster? Or to die as a good man?"
According to Scorsese's psychiatric advisor on the film, James Gilligan, the line represents Teddy faking his own regression, choosing this path to atone for the murder of his wife. The last moments of the film can be interpreted as if Teddy were actually saying, "I feel too guilty to go on living. I'm not going to actually end my life, but I'm going to vicariously do it by handing myself over to these people who are going to lobotomize me." Thanks for watching. Click the looper icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel, plus check out all this cool stuff we know you'll love too.